Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Tripowin X HBB Olina, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Intoit Reviews for sending over the Tripowin X HBB Olina for review. Do greatly appreciate it. Intoit Reviews, you rock. Check out the links down below. There's all kinds of information regarding Intoit Reviews, a link to his website, a link to his YouTube channel. Give him a subscription and tell him I sent you. Alright, so the Tripowin X HBB Olina. This is a collaboration between Tripowin and HBB, or Hawaii Bad Boy, or also known as the Bad Guy Good Audio Reviews. So the Olina, this is a $99 IEM. It has a 10mm dynamic driver with a carbon nanotube diaphragm, has impedance of 32 ohms, sensitivity of 110 decibels, frequency response of 10 hertz to 43 kilohertz, and comes in a very simple unboxing. We're not even going to bother to open the box. On the inside, you're going to get some replacement filters, and you're going to get some silicone tips, and you're going to get a carrying case with a little bit of Tripowin branding on it. Blue, kind of cool. Alright, so the Olinas themselves, they have an aluminum alloy resin shell. It has a kind of a cool faceplate, and it has a very smooth, somewhat thick shell, and a very, very short nozzle. Connects with 2 pins. The cable is all right. You do get those different tips. You get the shorter ones, these are, which are a little wider bore, and then you get a somewhat longer tip that is a little bit more narrow bore. And I found that the tips do make a difference. I found that the narrow bore tip was a little bit more on the bassy side, but also recessed the mids a little and really accentuated the top end, upper mids, and treble. And I found that the wide bore ones balanced things out a little bit. Even though you lost a little bit of impact in the bass, you did not have the upper mids and treble aggression as badly, and the mids were a little bit more forward. Cable's good. I'm not really going to talk about it. It's nothing too special. Has adequate ear hooks, and overall it's just a nice cable. Alright, so the fit of the Olina is adequate. They snug in the ear okay, but that shorter nozzle doesn't really offer a lot of isolation, and so when they go in your ears, they just kind of sit there, at least for me, and they don't really block out outside noises very well. I find that about 50% of outside noises is blocked. So if you're in more loud settings, this may not work for you. It is better for lighter office duty and, just walk around the neighborhood and in the house, things like that. If you're in heavier, louder environments, these may not be adequate as far as noise isolation. I did try other tips. I found that they did offer different fittings, but they didn't really change the sonics a whole lot. I found that the Olina stock tips were the best, and so I did go with the wide bore tip. I used the Olina on pretty much every device, and I found that they're not really that picky. They're fairly easy to drive, being 32 ohms and 110 decibels of sensitivity, and I found that they were just happy on pretty much anything. Didn't really have any that sounded bad, and I used them from everything from dongles like the Periodic Audio Rhodium and the NextDrive Spectra X, all the way through DAPs, the Sony WM1A, Sony A105, and the Heidi's AP80 Pro, and also desktop Mytek Liberty DAC 2, Headamp GSX Mini, Drop 1 Linear. All that kind of stuff sounded okay. Did find that the little bit warmer tonalities of devices sounded better with the Olina, but they're, again, not super picky. How do the Olina sound? Before we get into that, let me discuss something really quickly. Point number 1, I do not mod gear that is loaned to me. Number 2, I review gear in stock form. And number 3, yes, I am aware that the Olina sounds better when it's modded, apparently. And allegedly, you're supposed to mod it and it sounds better than it does in stock form. I haven't heard that, and this review is not going to be about the stock or about the modded version. This is about the stock version of the Olina. If you're looking for a review about a modded Olina, there's other reviews to check out. How do the Tripowin X HBB Olinas sound? They are a interesting IEM. Frequency response 10 Hertz to 43 kilohertz. Nothing too special there. That's pretty standard throughout. And I find that the bass of the Tripowin X HBB Olina is good. It's pleasant. It has decent extension into the sub bass and good control throughout. I find that it is slightly light. I wish I had a little bit more impact, a little bit more authority to the sound. And it has a little bit of an airy kind of fluffy type of sound, even though it's well controlled and has okay impact and slam. I wish that it just had more. It needs a little bit more body, a little bit more girth to things, and a little bit more fullness in the notes. Overall, though, the bass is okay. It does its job. It's not going to leave you desiring for more or for less. It's just going to kind of be, it's there. Mids. Going into the mids is nice. There's a nice transition from the bass into the mids, but when you get to about 2K, it just starts to elevate really high up, and it becomes very forward in the upper mids, and it makes the mids to be uneven. They're uneven, they're uncohesive. The bottom end of the mids has a nice lushness to it, a good warmth to them, and then the upper mids are shouty and way too forward, and they become aggressive. And it really throws off instruments. Pianos and guitars especially will sound very uneven. They'll sound accurate and true, and then you get to about the middle of the keyboard, and as you go through the octaves, and then all of a sudden the upper octaves are more thin and are just more forward and louder and more aggressive. I find that the mids are very distracting for me, especially when listening to like mixed groups, instruments in like classical groups, things like that. It just sounds off-putting. One's farther back than the other and a little more forward and a little more aggressive, and it just throws off the whole tonality of the mids, especially the upper mids. They become harsh, and they have sibilants in there, and they are just a little too much off-putting. Going into the treble, the lower treble definitely is too forward, especially at 8K, and it's very intense, and it has a hotness to it, and it's a very just grating in my ears. And I find that then the rest of the treble extends it and is okay, except for 12K. 12K again is a little too elevated, and it turns it into being a little hot and shimmery and glary up top. Overall, I find that the frequency response of the Olina is okay. It's not the greatest, it's not the worst. I wish that it was more controlled and not as elevated in the upper mids and lower treble region. That's just a little too forceful and a little too shimmery, a little too glary, has some glassiness to it, harshness, brightness, and hotness. But overall, I find that the Olina is adequate. Soundstage is wide. It does a good job of really portraying the width of a track, and it has okay depth and layering. It doesn't really get confused and muddled too much at times, but it's not the best, especially on really busy tracks or deeper tracks. Things will kind of sound a little in front of each other and a little bit just blocking some of the details at times, and they'll go into one note mode, but that's pretty much only on more busy tracks. Imaging is solid. Things travel across the stage. You can tell whether it's on the right side or in the middle or in the left or in between. Things flow. It's not super precise and accurate, but it does a decent job of being, it's right here in this neighborhood, and it's over here, and that's in front and that's in back, but being pinpoint doesn't quite get there. Overall, I find that the Olina is an okay sounding IEM and an okay Technicalities, but it doesn't really do anything to set itself apart, to be different, especially when you're comparing it to something like the TINHIFI T3 Plus. Going with the TINHIFI T3 Plus, you get better tonality, better timbre, you get more fullness and a better note weight and body. There's more presence to things. The bass is more impactful, and overall the treble is better controlled and it's not as elevated and as peaky. And I find that the T3 Plus is just, overall better IEM than the Olina. And then going to the Dunu Titan S. The Dunu Titan S absolutely roasts the Olina. It's better tonally, it's more accurate, it's more balanced, more cohesive. You get better tone and timbre, better detail retrieval and resolution, and it has more accurate bass representation, and the treble is more true. And overall, the soundstage is better on both. The only thing that the Olina does a little bit better than the Titan S and the T3 Plus is a little bit wider soundstage. And I really don't mind the Olina, but I don't love it. It's just not anything super special, in my opinion. It's just another IEM, and there's better options in the price point. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on screen, subscription links and notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. Then don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and also check out the links down below. There's all kinds of information down there, including links to Intoit Reviews and all kinds of other things, like how you can contact the channel, support the channel, follow the channel. All that kind of good stuff is down below. Don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.